Good Friday morning, guys. My name is Jerry Miller, and this is Real Talk with Keith Smith. Thank you kindly for joining us. A pleasure to connect with you from downtown Charlottesville at the I Love CVille studios on a show today presented by Keller, Williams, Alliance, and our friends at Yes Realty Partners. Keith Smith, a little R&R at the beach, I believe, Virginia Beach, with the beautiful 7/8 Yonna Smith. But
he was
have
off
no
to the
fear.
Races.
I have no idea. It's hard to keep up with this man. He travels.
It's a wedding.
Often. Is that what it is?
I believe an uncle is getting married.
All right, let's welcome the guys. Is that what it is? Is it Virginia Beach or is it a wedding? Is it
wedding.
North Carolina?
Yes.
Oh, it's not Virginia Beach.
It's North Carolina.
Okay.
It's a wedding.
North Carolina.
He was at Virginia Beach 2 weeks ago with me for a KW regional conference.
I gotcha. And then prior was St. Martin.
Correct.
Okay, got it. Judah Wickhauer's got Quinton Beckham and Lee Elberson on studio. Brothers from different mothers. Gentlemen, Friday morning. How's the week transpired and how has it treated you?
Wow, it's been busy.
It's good. Busy is good.
It's been busy, and if
busy good or busy?
Busy.
Okay.
If one more person tells me, gosh, we really needed that rain.
More coming, Quinton. More coming. I think I saw an ark and a couple of zebras and a couple of bears and a couple of lions on Market Street before I walked into the studio. Lee Elberson, my friend, what's on your brain?
Same thing, busy week. Clayborne sponsors a class in Richmond over the summer, and while I have other staff there, I'm usually there for the first couple weeks, and so it's a 2.5-hour class commuting to Richmond every morning, so my day has been sort of starting at 6 a.m. and I don't get to start my actual workday until 2 p.m. So from 6 a.m. to 2 p.m. I'm teaching, and then, as you know, all the meetings get pushed into the afternoon. So
how has the Richmond commute been treating you?
Well, I've been taking the Tesla, so it's been super easy. Just pop it in autopilot, listen to a podcast.
Okay.
And it's been pretty great for that reason.
What podcasts are tickling the Lee Elberson fancy?
Well, I feel bad because I have not been listening to Sean Tubbs.
Oh.
What's his? Charlottesville.
He's got a lot of brands.
Yeah.
Got a lot of brands.
I haven't been listening to his. I've been really listening, really interested in any podcast on artificial intelligence, which I think we'll bring into the show today.
We've been talking about that.
Sam Harris is a big one. If you've ever heard of him, he wrote several books, including Moral Landscape, and has a lot of controversial discussions about AI and social media and things like that. So.
Artificial intelligence and influencer in the Charlottesville City Council election. I'm sure that'll come up later in the show. Quinton Beckham, what is on your brain?
Gosh, I don't know. It's Friday. I'm happy I made it to Friday.
Me too.
Yeah.
Weekend plans?
It's a full weekend.
Okay. Full weekend of showings or enjoyable dinners
There's
with friends?
some work and there's some dinners and stuffs.
You guys are playing poker?
I hang out with Quinton a lot. Here, I'll tell you what Quinton's going to do. Quinton is going to work diligently until about 5:30. He's going to cram as much work as he can get into until 5:30. Then he's going to go to Tavola, right? Happy hour, maybe Tavola, maybe grab some drinks with friends.
Something bourbony will be in his future.
Probably will have a bourbon on the rocks or something.
Yeah.
And then tomorrow at about 6 a.m. he's going to wake up, work his butt off until about 2 p.m. and then he'll go meet up with some friends. And then Sunday he usually has dinner with maybe Elena and Bert. How close am I?
I would love to meet this person because they sound like they could really, get some things done.
He is a man about town. Ray Cadell, welcome to the program. Thank you kindly for watching us. You got a couple of agents at RE3 watching. Sean Tubbs is getting a plug from Neil Williamson, who is sharing his link, which is the Charlottesville Community Engagement Substack.
Yep.
And he tags Sean Tubbs on the feed. Gentlemen, I know you guys have conversated. I know you guys have colluded. I know you guys have chitter-chattered, alliteration at its finest. The topic du jour that you guys have percolated, I will respond and adapt to you.
Well, we've been talking about AI, so we thought we would have a sort of three-way conversation here.
Yeah, we have.
Okay.
I have these questions framed. So I use ChatGPT to ask some questions about real estate.
So do a couple city council candidates.
Everyone should be using ChatGPT. It's going to replace Google and search engines at some point in the future. So get used to it. So Quinton, let's start off with. Now I want to frame this for Quinton. So
You have to frame it for the audience.
For the audience, okay. So Quinton can be verbose, so we're going to try to frame these answers.
Ouch.
So can ChatGPT. So just so you know, I had to ask ChatGPT to frame these answers. So when coming up with these, try to think of in generalities and big picture items, and not get too buried
don't be
in the
me.
details. Don't
All
be
right,
you.
but make sure let's localize the content to Charlottesville because it is the I Love CVille Network, and no one really cares about macro content on the I Love CVille Network.
It's all Charlottesville
Okay.
centric. Okay, so
So you've asked
I've asked
ChatGPT these questions?
Yeah.
Okay, so I'm competing with an AI.
You're competing with an AI that you probably know. I would say Quinton's going to give much better answers than ChatGPT.
He did send me the questions this morning.
Okay. Yeah.
He gave me a heads up.
What's up, John Blair? Welcome to the program.
All right. What are the three main causes of the affordable housing crisis in Charlottesville?
Oh, I have to go first.
Do you want ChatGPT to go first, and then maybe you?
I wasn't sure.
No.
I wasn't sure if it
Quinton
was.
should go first. Quinton
Okay.
should go
I wasn't sure
first,
if we're
yeah.
doing real
might-
Quinton or synthetic Quinton.
Well, it might be interesting to do synthetic Quinton, and then Quinton could correct the AI
Okay.
and see where it's going wrong. But let's have you go first this time.
Well, one currently is still inventory. Two is still the pandemic and the run-up that we had. And three is consistent underbuilding.
No mention of the comprehensive plan in Albemarle County. Only 5% of Albemarle is allocated to
He
development.
said City of Charlottesville. And I did say low inventory, and he
Okay.
told me to not be verbose.
Okay.
Okay. So let's see what ChatGPT says.
Okay.
So I was trying to be simple.
Okay.
So, ChatGPT says the top three are number one, limited supply and high demand.
Fair.
Inventory. That's
Low
inventory.
inventory.
Yeah.
Number two, rising costs of housing.
Okay, so that's a bad answer.
that is not
that's
an
a bad
answer.
answer.
That's a terrible answer.
That's a bad answer.
That's
Yeah.
pretty consistent everywhere.
Yeah.
Okay,
Rising
all right.
cost of housing
All right.
means things are expensive.
Okay. Number three, it says gentrification and displacement. Would you like some details on what it says there? Do you think that
That's word salad right there from ChatGPT. That's literally word salad.
gentrification occurs when higher income residents move into lower income neighborhoods? Yes, we know that, often leading to rising housing prices. In Charlottesville, the property values have increased substantially, and longtime residents, including lower income individuals, have been displaced. So it doesn't know a lot necessarily about Charlottesville, just what it's read on the internet up until.
And what it's done wrong is the order. So in gentrification, high income folks move into lower income neighborhoods.
Mm-hmm.
What we had happen in Charlottesville is lower income neighborhoods became priced so that only high income folks could afford them. And so it's chicken egg.
I would say ChatGPT on a scale of 1 to 10 or a letter grade scale gets maybe a D plus with that answer. Quinton Beckham, I'm going to give him an A.
Yeah, okay.
I feel much more
Yeah,
secure.
I know, you're fine. All right, ChatGPT failed with that one. What's the next one?
All right.
Elena Mangione is watching. She says NIMBYism and density and says, Lee, you and Alex come over to dinner on Sunday. I'm not taking no for an answer.
All right, we actually, I think our social calendar might be open, so that's
Okay.
that's a firm maybe right there. All right, here's one that's interesting. So, what makes Charlottesville special? This is an interesting one.
What makes Charlottesville
Top
special?
three things that make Charlottesville.
Oh my God.
So the problem is this just makes me want to be incredibly sarcastic because one is Charlottesville's favorite thing is Charlottesville.
That's fair. Charlottesville loves Charlottesville. And
Yeah.
this answer is unique for every person.
That it's a small town masquerading as a city, that it has the university.
Okay, it did say education institutions. So ChatGPT listed 6 things that it thinks make Charlottesville special, as opposed.
I would like to hear.
Yeah,
I would like to
please.
hear.
Okay, all right. So, number one, not surprising, historical significance. It goes on about Thomas Jefferson and all of the founding fathers.
I wouldn't say
Yeah,
that would
yeah.
be in the top 10 if we polled people on Market Street. Would you, Quinton?
Yeah.
Yeah, that would not be in the top 10.
Okay.
Would you agree with that?
Yeah, I agree. That would not be in their top 10.
Okay.
Yeah.
Number 2, education and institutions. Okay, mentions UVA and proximity to other things. So, yep, I think that's what you said. Number 3, natural beauty, nestled in the foothills of the Blue Ridge Mountains. Do you think that would be a common answer? Think like hiking and stuff that people enjoy around our area?
I would think the answer that people would give, there's a lot of outdoor activities that we can do. I would think people would mention the restaurant scene, the music scene.
Number
a
4,
strong
culinary
economy.
and beverage scene.
Yeah,
Yep.
a strong economy.
Number 5, arts and culture. And number 6, sense of community. Charlottesville is known for a strong sense of community and civic engagement.
You want to touch that one?
I think that's what he's saying. People in Charlottesville love being in, love the fact that they're in
So I do
Charlottesville.
think if you poll people and say, do you love Charlottesville, the vast majority of them will say yes.
Yes.
If you make them drill down to why they love Charlottesville, the vast majority of them will disagree. When raising my children, I used to tell them all the time, I want you to always remember you're unique, just like everyone else. And so a lot of times when we talk about what makes a particular place special, we're dealing with that very concept. And it's just a matter of what makes people embrace and live here. We do have a very high percentage of charitable donations. Some of those get lost in the competition between nonprofits for the monies, and yet we still are facing problems that are very similar to communities that don't have that level of charitable contribution. So I resist the question of what makes Charlottesville special, because I think a lot of our ongoing issues is because we believe it's special.
Yeah, well, I would say
Blake Hawthorne has an answer. Where's Blake watching?
Blake is probably in Sacramento right now.
He says
Yeah.
one of his top reasons that makes Charlottesville special is the global internet talk show scene.
Oh, wow, dude!
Blake.
Wow.
Oh, Blake, way to pick a sentence you knew he would read.
Blake, that is hilarious. That is
Blake
absolutely
sat
hilarious.
right there on Jerry's desk when he came.
He
to
also
visit.
says, I've been there once, the history, the school, and the geography. Jonathan says there's not a single person that would mention the history as one of the reasons that Charlottesville is special. In fact, I would argue the history and the ties to it have caused divisiveness in this community. So ChatGPT is wrong. That's from Jonathan. I mean, there's some truth to that.
Well, I would say saying
He's talking
this is
monuments.
Wrong, yeah, saying this is wrong is like saying anyone else is wrong. This is just its opinion, and maybe special is not the right word. Unique as compared to every other city in the United States, and I think everyone's answer is going to be different. And certainly, people who've never traveled much are going to have answers that don't have the same perspective as people who have lived in many different cities. I think one of the things that makes Charlottesville special, as Quinton touched on, the nonprofit density per capita in Charlottesville is one of the highest in the nation.
I think one of the things that makes Charlottesville special is the incredible ecosystem for entrepreneurs and business owners. If they want to come to market, there's tremendous support like CIC, which Lee is very passionate about. I launched mine. You're a business owner. He's a business owner. I'm a business owner. There's just a lot of support if you seek it. And a lot of people that are surrounded by business owners, whether neighbors and friends, that are eager to support local. And that commitment to local is not present in a lot of other markets.
And I do think one of the things that would probably get rotten fruit thrown at me is Charlottesville's a lot of Northern Virginia light. You know, there's a lot of resources that flow down from DC and Northern Virginia. There's a lot of institutions that are housed here. And yet it has not yet achieved the level of density and traffic and some of the nightmares. So for a lot of folks, it's a nice middle ground where you get the best of both worlds.
Yeah, I think that's totally true.
There's a lot of beautiful stuff, and yet when I go back home to the desert, I'm like, oh, I miss this. This is gorgeous. And so I really do think it's a matter of perspective.
One of your colleagues, Carly Wagner, my good, bad summary of Charlottesville is always that Charlottesville has more education than common sense. Carly Wagner right there. There's a lot of truth to that statement if you want to unpack
I
it.
can definitely appreciate that.
More education than common sense. What's another ChatGPT question?
All right. Let's see. Where's the question for Quinton? Oh, yeah, here's a good one. Maybe. How will AI transform the home buying process?
It won't transform the home buying process, but it is already working on how you connect. So there's already websites and software and features out there if you read back through the, I'm going to back up a minute. If you read back through the stats, the number of people whose first engagement in house hunting is online is at percentages that are just ever increasing and way different than it was 10 or 15 years ago. As they've added in AI to help them narrow down that search, you're no longer clicking through boxes of bedrooms and baths and price ranges, and the results you're getting are more tailored to the things you want. And AI and ChatGPT has become a part of that, and it's already happening in websites right now.
I'll take it a step further. This is how ChatGPT and AI will influence real estate. As ChatGPT and AI become more robust, they are going to start creating an archive of every unique domicile in America. So when you go and list a house on the MLS, and people go and enter and tour that house because they're interested in purchasing that home, they are going to start, you heard it here first, inputting data on homes they tour, creating a historical archive of each unique domicile in America. Consider what would happen if someone does a home inspection on a house, the home inspection raises red flags, and that person then takes that home inspection that they paid for and uploads it to some kind of AI. That home inspection is then archived in perpetuity, in longevity, forever, for people to reference moving forward. So just like when we get a Carfax report, the car has frame issues, we are now going to have data on houses with unique addresses for cribs moving forward. And then someone is going to be able to log into ChatGPT or some kind of AI platform and say, 946 Rockledge Drive, Redfield, south side of Charlottesville. Give me the Carfax.
All right, just not to discount that at all. That doesn't seem like a terribly novel concept.
It's not happening right now.
So
Lee.
what is preventing it from happening, that from happening right now?
I got that answer too.
Regulatory issues? Like what's...
I got that answer. I can
honestly,
speak
to
much
me-
more real than you can if you want me to take that.
Well, hey,
You
no,
know-
it doesn't sound terribly novel. Do you agree with that? That's
It's not a terribly novel idea.
But why is it not happening now?
Well, I would tell you that it's not necessarily not happening, but it's not happening in the way that you're saying. And a lot of it is laws and ethics codes that run around that. And the fact that we still believe in homesteads as being private, and therefore things around them are private. And in many cases, go on a forum board for some sort of new thing. Let's say you go on the Tesla forums. When Tesla was new, 80% of the forums went from cheer, cheer, cheer for Tesla to everything that was wrong with it. Because when we are in anonymous groups, we like to focus on negativity. And often the information that it gives, if you were to do this, would be wrong. Because it will get old and out of date, and repairs and updates and other things happen. And so if you're going to data mine, the primary focus of data mine is often marketing, lead generation, and connecting buyers to the correct houses, sellers to the correct realtors. And when you get into data mining for something as complex as a home, it's really hard to quantify that. So when you look at site aggregators, so all listing information is public information. And if you've never been in the house, you can't tell the difference between 3 houses in a row, who owns a lawnmower and who cleans their house and who does maintenance. And so the data in and of itself is less useful without the extra details in there that often only come from, at this point in time, a human.
It will be the customers leading the charge with this data archive, as opposed to the realtors. It will be the clients who go through homes that discover the pros and cons of a crib, that then go and take that information and upload it to the unique profile of that house online for people then to reference moving forward.
Okay, a couple of follow-up questions.
You took the crystal balls away. I felt like you
I
should
know.
have your crystal ball.
I have. We have many of them. 3 of them.
What is there anything preventing? So the home inspection is an interesting thing. What would prevent me if I get a home inspection on a house I'm going to
Nothing.
buy?
Absolutely nothing.
Could I just go to Nextdoor and just post it?
Absolutely.
Okay. Is there,
Absolutely. The realtor cannot do it, but the customer absolutely can. Because the customer paid for that inspection themselves.
Let's
It's a fact.
hear from the real estate expert.
I mean, I'm the one, I do this for a living. 24 tenants.
I think it would be a matter of time before there was something that stopped the practice. It wouldn't take long.
Okay.
We have comments coming in fast and furious. Carly Wagner, the engineer, who's also a realtor. Insurance companies are already doing this right now. Similar data and reports exist. They pull reports on home data and claims history, but this data is not public access. She believes I am right as well.
I don't know that she said that. She did say that insurance uses geodetics and has for decades.
Yeah.
And this is why you're having a hard time getting insurance in Florida after the 37th hurricane rolled through. And there are places in California where you're having difficulty because of multiple fires. And so, but what she's speaking of is aggregate geodetics, which insurance has done for a long time, versus an individual thing. And, we have lots of aggregate data on healthcare, on how to treat a disease. And would you rather not be seen by a doctor and just treated by the aggregate, or would you like something specific to you?
I'll devil's advocate you. I have a iWatch on my wrist right now, and this watch can track my personal health KPIs and literally archive it in the cloud. And I, in my last healthcare appointment, took the data from my iWatch that was archived in the cloud and presented it to my healthcare provider.
Of course. Of course.
Why can we not take KPI? How can we wear a watch that tracks our personal health KPIs and then uploaded it and provide it to our healthcare provider, but we don't have the same concept for individual houses when it's the most expensive investment we will ever make in our lives?
Hey, can I follow up on this for just a couple of things? I think the watch is interesting because your doctor probably is not a technology expert and doesn't know what the error bars are. So when it takes your heart rate, at what frequency is your setting set for your heart rate? What's the reliability of that? So, I mean, he has to take that with a grain of salt. I think the Carfax is an interesting thing because that's a major issue. And I don't know a lot about real estate, but if something like if you
foundation.
A tree falls on your house and you have to do renovation, that maybe is in the public domain, or maybe you would find out about that. What you're talking about is more of a service record. Your service record for your car is not public. So like every time I took my Jeep to the Jeep dealership, that is not public information, only when it's been in a major accident. And I think what Quinton was saying earlier is that it's tricky when you have all of that information. If you give people all the information for everything that's been serviced on my Jeep, they say, hey, what's going on with the tire sensor? And I'd say, 5 years ago when I first got it, the tire sensor went bad and they had to replace it. So that's out of date. So
our healthcare provider, my doctor, watches the program. I can actually, and Carly says no, they can actually pull reports not only on individual homes, but also individual people. Lawyers do this as well. Whenever a claim is brought, insurance and attorneys can pull a report. I can't remember the name, but it will show if this person was involved in certain claims. So the insurance companies are tracking individual houses. And the unique thing about Carly is I believe she's also a structural engineer. When I went to my primary care physician with the data from the cloud, he said that probably 1 in 4 of his patients are also bringing data from an iWatch to these healthcare checkups. Mm-hmm. And a good example of this, and you can help me because you have a healthcare background, one of my buddies, I'm not going to use his name, what's the word, is the phrase AFib?
That's one of them.
AFib, when your heart, the BPM on your heart goes real high. Just started realizing that he was having AFib because of an iWatch. And it was not till he had the iWatch that he realized that AFib was his personal issue.
Yeah. But then what do you do with that? And so I think we're sailing by each other in the conversation is, yes, you can provide skilled people with lots more data that informs a process and gives better outcome, but you still need that skilled person at the end. Data in and of itself, and I think this is one of the things that currently AI does really well and is also a flaw. It does a really good job of presenting the data as though a human were interpreting it, and yet it's not. It's just compiling the parts and pieces together in a logical framework.
And that's very true. Devil's advocate for the sake of a talk show. The AI, as Lee indicated before the show, if we're using a child analogy, is not, you said the crawl stage.
Yeah.
I think AI is in mama's belly right now. Not even at the crawl stage. I think AI right now is really at the stage of the sperm touching the egg. We're not even in mama's belly yet. We're the sperm and the egg about to touch.
Well, whatever analogy we use, yeah, you could probably judge based on the last few models that GPT has come out with, and between 3.5 and 4, they said it got 10 times better. So yeah, I think when you're measuring progress in decades like that, you probably are in that infancy.
This is from Blake, who's in Sacktown right now. A question for Quinton. Quinton, are you concerned about corporate conglomerate push and how it could impact agents in home buying and selling? I am not concerned with that. I don't want to answer him because I still think you're going to need an expert to help you figure this out.
As I say, tell me more. I'm not sure I know what you're getting at, Blake.
Yeah, offer more insight if you could, Blake in Sacktown, California, and happy to relay it live on air. I think you're going to still need the guys like Quinton and Keith to make this happen and to push the deals over the finish line because every scenario is a unique proposition, right? It's not the same every time.
It is unique, and I still go back to we know money is always an issue. Money, interest rates, payments, debt to income ratio, that's always an issue. And a lot of what motivates, are they coming to arrest you, Lee?
They may be. Lee's AI idea over here.
Yeah.
And I do think a lot of what defines a home buying process as satisfactory or unsatisfactory are all the things that come after that. And data is very bad at identifying those things.
And gosh, I love the viewers and listeners. They are so intelligent. It's called the Clue Report, the comprehensive. Where did it go? I just lost that comment. Hold on one second. Carly, you're making the program better right now. The Clue Report, the Comprehensive Loss Underwriting Exchange. None of this is public yet, nor should it ethically be. But the Clue Report, the Comprehensive Loss Underwriting Exchange, is tracking, like a Carfax, individual houses. I didn't know that. Did you know that?
I did not know that.
I did not know that. So if this is already happening in the insurance industry and they're privatizing this data for the insurance industry's personal and financial gain, shouldn't that data be democratized so all of us could get some insight into the data so we can use it to our advantage? Or should it be siloed for the sole gain of insurance advantage?
Should or will?
AI is going to democratize this.
I don't think so. AI is.
We'll agree to disagree on that.
If you look at where all the funding for AI has gone, it's the major players that are funding this, and Google's dumping a lot of money in this. And if you've learned nothing from their model, they own that data and they monetize that data. Every big company.
But that data's free. Look at Google search. When you go to Google and you say, where should I go to dinner tonight for a Thai restaurant, Google is utilizing their data and giving it to you for free.
Yeah, but they don't sell that data to when they sell it to third parties, they sell it in aggregate. So what you're talking about is, I think, trying to buy that, somebody else being able to have access to that data?
No. I think what's going to happen, I think what AI is going to, literally this is what I think is going to happen. I think AI is going to become so ubiquitous and approachable that social norms will change, and when someone pursues a home to purchase, they're going to say, all right, let me do my personal study in this house, home inspection, and the eyeball test of me walking through it. And then, just like we go on Facebook and Instagram and write 10 sentences on what we had for dinner that night at our restaurant of choice, we're going to use that same habit and that same behavior and write 10 sentences of what our eye test did when we walked through a house, and or upload the home inspection report that the client personally paid for to AI about the crib. And as more people do that, it becomes more the norm, and that changes social behavior and social norm.
Okay, the first part of that I don't find as valuable. I think everyone is entitled to have an opinion. I don't think everybody's opinion is equally valuable. My opinion on real estate is worth nothing. Quinton's opinion on
It's worth marginally more.
On poker skills or education aren't maybe as valuable as mine. And so I think when people are just uploading their thoughts on a house, that's not as important as the home inspection, because that's done by a professional, and that data, I think that is always going to be monetized.
But
so
how is that-
I don't think it's going to necessarily be easily accessible to the
How
end
is that
user.
any different than us going to Yelp and saying, I want to go to Citizen Burger Bar for dinner tonight, and there's 10,000 comments on Yelp about Citizen Burger Bar. And then it's up to us to decipher, by using our intellect and our street smarts, which opinions on Yelp are more valuable than the others. It's the same thing. We're already doing this now.
Yeah, some people do that. I would say
I do it every day.
I would say that Google has added an extra layer saying, there's a ton of reviews for this. This is a good fit for your style because you like these places. And so that's, I think, where the AI lens will come in, not necessarily on...
This is a great question from Carly. Does Jerry think that HIPAA will go out the window? The private data and the insurance claims reports that are tracked at an individual level is similar to personal medical records. Maybe there already is an act like HIPAA that protects this data, perhaps covered under attorney-client privilege. I do not think HIPAA is going to go out the window. I think what's going to happen is the individual person is going to want democratization of all knowledge as AI and smartphones and technology become more approachable and ubiquitous. And as they become more approachable and ubiquitous, we're going to have more access to knowledge like we've never had before, just like we have right now compared to 10 or 15 years ago. It's going to be the market, the individuals that take control of this. And they're going to do it because the home purchase is the most significant decision we make outside of who we marry. It's going to be the consumer that demands this and leads the charge.
Well, the consumer's always been in charge of the market.
Yeah.
And I think one of the things that's interesting, I find two things interesting in this. One, it's really fun to sit back and watch the two of you go at it. It amuses me, and I just wish I had coffee. Two,
I'm like this all the time.
well, I guess I have three things to say. Two, in my generation, there was a lot of aspiration surrounding space and where were we going to be by 2030 and what was going to happen. And generationally, people seem to have their thing. And we were just talking before the show started about the number of predictions of what's going to happen in 10, 15, 30 years and how they're wrong almost each
They're all wrong.
Almost exactly.
30-year predictions are always wrong.
And I think three, AI is very interesting, and yet much of it doesn't really have a social utility. And you talk about consumer-driven items. A lot of consumer-driven items have to do with the social utility for the individual and the community involved. And a lot of what we're talking about is interesting, but doesn't necessarily have a social utility. Insurance has a reason to have a Clue report, and you have a new sponsor for Real Talk,
We do.
Jeremy Rowe with
Yeah.
Goosehead Insurance.
That's right.
Who probably knows way more about the Clue report than any of us that are at the table right now. And you should talk to him about it.
We will. Jeremy, I'll text Jeremy Rowe. I will text him now. Dr. Shocker Alex Elberson is watching on YouTube. Dr. Shocker is watching on YouTube.
Dr. Shocker?
Dr. Shocker 600.
Is it like home shock therapy treatments?
That literally is his.
Boy, that's...
Dr.
Shocker's
Shocker.
back. Wow, remember when we were kids in there? Yeah.
Yeah.
The Shockers.
told me
I'll
I-
stop right
they told me
there.
I would be normal
Tasers. I'm
after
telling
the
you,
shock
tasers.
therapy.
Dr.
All right.
Shocker says, boys, Apple is already selling the health data right now. Look it up. Apple is already selling your health data.
Aggregate data.
Aggregate
yes.
data. There's
Aggregate
a difference
data,
between
yes.
aggregate data and specific data, and I think specific data for the homes, I don't see that as being publicly available without a subscription. I think the person who owns that data knows how valuable it is, and they're going to keep that tight. Look at
How about
try
this
to get
question?
national
Think about it like a
realty data.
businessman. Think about it like a businessman.
Real,
okay?
real quick, just
Yeah.
you know this.
Yeah.
The National Association of Realtors holds their data very tight.
Oh,
you
yeah.
try to search like that data, it's not easily accessible.
The National
they know
Association
the
of
value
Realtors
of it.
made, and I don't want to speak for realtors, but when the National Association of Realtors made the MLS available to everybody, that was a crossroads for NAR. That was a crossroads for realtor, because it used to be in a book that only agents had, and they protected the MLS in this book like it was the Bible, like it was Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John, Genesis, Leviticus, Deuteronomy, okay? And then it went online. It's the same thing that happened with the newspaper industry. The newspaper industry initially gave their news away for free, and then now they're trying to come back and monetize it. It's the same thing. Now, I'll throw this to you. Think about it like a businessman. No, think about it like a businessman.
Deuteronomy wasn't a gospel, just to interject that.
Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John are the only Gospels. Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John are the only Gospels. How about this as a business concept, okay? You build a website. Okay, website is such an archaic term. I'm not even going to use the word website. You build a digital platform, and the digital platform says, consumer, I will cover half the cost of your home inspection if you agree to upload said inspection to our digital platform. The home inspection is going to cost you, was it, Quinton, between $500 and $1,000?
Sure, depending on what you got, size of the
Ours is
house,
600,
what you're looking at.
Yeah.
So between 500, I've done 17 home inspections in the last 5 years.
Yeah.
Okay, 17 commercial or residential inspections.
Yeah.
Consumer, you can save 50% on the cost of that home or commercial inspection if you agree to upload said inspection into our digital platform. You know how many effing people will do that? Here's $250. Here's $500. Just upload your junk to my digital platform. I would do that in a heartbeat. So would you, and so would you, and so would he. That's called a businessman thinking about it. And then once the digital platform gets enough home inspections on its platform, it's just going to snowball and snowball and snowball and snowball till it's the norm.
Maybe. I mean, I could definitely think of some counterpoints where if I was certain I was buying the house, that maybe I wouldn't want the home inspection public. So, I don't know. Quinton? Jerry's very excitable, and you're very subdued this morning.
I'm in such a great space.
Jerry
I
had
coffee.
too much caffeine, and you had too much coffee.
I'm in a good
morning.
space.
Yeah.
I'm like this every day.
I think we're talking in circles a little
Okay,
bit.
actually, can I ask you about
The
something
viewers are
that's-
loving this.
That's sort of on par with this. So when I asked AI for how it would transform the buying process, how would AI transform the buying process? One of the things it mentioned was automated valuation models. AI algorithms can analyze vast amounts of property data, and automated valuation models can assist buyers in, buying property. How does AI contribute now to the valuation of a house? Does it? Or is that just set by the home seller?
So no, I don't think it's set by the home seller. I think he's talking about the consumer running the market like that just started happening a week ago, and that's been happening for generations. And so often houses sell not just for what they're valued for, but what somebody will pay for them.
Mm-hmm.
And then you're doing inspections and looking for material defects and other items specific to the property to subtract from that price. And then you need some other sort of fuzzier interaction that involves a human to talk about what's going on in the neighborhood, in the city, in the town. And so all of that varies. And again, the problem with aggregate pricing is its limitation to just hard numbers.
Woody says AVMs are bad. AVM, I believe, is an acronym for Automated Valuation Model.
I agree with Woody.
Yeah.
Because we used to never talk in price per square foot. We only started talking in price per square
You've
foot.
chastised me about that.
Yeah, and I'm going to continue to chastise you
Yeah.
about that and probably multiple other things in days to come.
It's the businessman in me.
Because price per square foot assumes it's an identical widget. And there is no such thing as an identical widget. Everything on a piece of property is unique.
So does that mean you discount cap rate then? If you discount price per square foot, then you must discount cap rate.
Cap rate has specific numbers tied to the use, and it's not a valuation of the building itself necessarily.
Okay. We'll go. We'll let that one. Cap rate is one that I follow very, very closely.
It's a valuable tool,
Yeah.
and if you made all of your decisions based only on cap rate, you would make many bad decisions.
Yeah, that's fair. That's fair. My first decision is always the eye test. My second decision is always utility. My third decision is always location, location, location. My fourth is price per square. My fifth is cap rate. I'm working with a client now that's trying to bring a business to market, a pretty sizable business to market in the urban ring. And his primary focus as he's bringing this business to market, which I think is going to be a revolutionary business, is price per square. It's one of the key KPIs where he's building his business model around.
talking about key performance indicators. And you probably have people here who don't know what cap rate is, maybe
Yeah.
watching, perhaps.
Let me see if I can give a very,
Is it income over asset value?
I'll give you a very simple definition of cap
in
rate.
our business, I don't know.
Capitalization rate is a real estate valuation measure used to compare different real estate investments. Although there are many variations, the cap rate is generally calculated as the ratio between the annual rental income produced by a real estate asset to its current market value.
Okay.
Okay, a good example is, I was sitting at this table 2 days ago with someone that across from me that owned, I would say, $500 million of real estate locally. And then I had two other folks, we were talking negotiations here, and the cap rate came up. And he said this, in fact, I can read verbatim what he said without spilling the beans. He said, a 5.5 cap rate is stiff. I can get 4.5% tax-free on my bonds right now.
Well, because cap rate doesn't necessarily have to be attached to real property. It's an annualized return based on investment. And so, the simplest comparison is a savings account interest rate. And when you're looking at cap rate for a building, you have to subtract maintenance costs and taxes and what's that expectation over 3 years. And so it's a less simple form. It is a valuable piece of information, but in and of itself is not a good decision-making tool when that's the only decision-making tool.
That's very well said. This is resonating with the viewers and listeners. I mean, we're absolutely on fire right now. I'm trying to keep up with as many comments as possible on this. And viewers and listeners jump in. Multiple agents saying they do not like price per square. Here's a question, though.
Thank you.
If they don't end up buying the home, do they have a right to publish the data on a home they don't own? I bet home inspectors would fight this and say no. They own the content of the report and are only sharing with the person paying for that report.
That's good.
Anyone want to touch on that?
I'd say that, yeah, the better business model would be for inspectors to be part of an organization, and then they would license the use of that per fee basis or something. Yeah.
Oh my gosh, I cannot keep up with this. This is one specifically. Viewers and listeners, keep them coming fast and furious, please. I love that you guys are making the program better. Neil Williamson, president of the Free Enterprise Forum, specifically for Lee. How might AI change education as we know it, for the better or for the worse?
Oh, boy, the education industry is due for a disruption. I think the education system as we know it is a legacy system built centuries ago. Part of the issue is that, the education system, let's take, for instance, elementary school. You can't just disrupt elementary school because it's tied to middle school, tied to high school, university systems, standardized tests, Virginia standards of learning, all sorts of things. So I think, for my business, tutoring, high dosage tutoring as we call it, which is 1-to-1 or groups of 2 or 3, is the most impactful way for a student to learn. It's much more impactful than a classroom setting. So I think the best way to think of it is, how can you use an adaptive AI to be able to have a student customize their learning profile individually, and maybe a teacher is more of a facilitator. So I think the upside of having an AI model for teaching education is that it would allow it to be, I think, much more equitable for students. Quinton and I might both go into a math course, and Quinton might be ahead of me, and so we really shouldn't be learning the same thing at the same time. But at the end of the day, if they say, well, Quinton gained 50% knowledge and Lee also gained 50% knowledge, so maybe we'll base the grade on that you progress the same amount. I think the downside to any sort of AI learning model is it doesn't do anything for students' emotional intelligence, and that's a big part of the school system, is students being able to develop socially. And I think the pandemic taught us a great deal on the effect of removing that social structure for students. They fell behind, they had a difficult time interacting, and it decreased their mental health. So I think if we could come up with a school system that would leverage AI but still give students the ability to increase their emotional intelligence, that is ideal. And there's a great number of schools across the country right now that are thinking about how they're going to integrate AI next year, because if ChatGPT can write you an essay, maybe a teacher, instead of fighting it and trying to find a way to fight plagiarism, is to say, write your essay, feed it into ChatGPT, and tell it to edit it, and look at what it edited, and then rewrite it, and then feed it back into there, and so that the way the student's learning how to use experiential learning in ChatGPT. So, my long-winded answer.
I got a very short answer for you.
Yeah.
Okay, and I'll touch on the plagiarism first. I got caught up in that. University of Virginia, first year. Lou Bloomfield's How Things Work physics class. I took it first year, first semester, and first year, second semester. And Professor Bloomfield has a huge lecture hall of 500 or 600 students. And he said, first semester, you need to write a paper. I told this story on the I Love CVille show. You need to write a paper on these topics. And the topic I chose was windsurfing. And I did a damn good job, and I got an A on the paper. And then I took Lou Bloomfield's class second semester, and he said, you need to write a paper, it's going to be 80% of your grade on one of these topics. And I chose sailboating. Why did I choose sailboating?
I give up. Why?
Because it's just like windsurfing. And I could use the A I got on the windsurfing paper as the foundation for the paper on sailboating. And I went into Microsoft Word, I clicked find and replace windsurfing for sailboating. And then I pretty much just did that. And I submitted the paper. And Lou Bloomfield had...
It's actually pretty... it's like plagiarizing yourself.
That's what I said. How can I plagiarize myself? And how can I plagiarize myself when you're giving me the option to write sailboating when I did windsurfing last semester? And I talked to him just like this, and he said, you get an A. And I walked out of the class. And that paper took me 2 minutes to write. And he never made that option again. And I'll take it a step further for education. Okay, for education.
So you juke the system in a way.
No, I work smart, not hard.
And
that's what I told him. I work smart, not hard.
But did you miss the purpose of the exercise?
The purpose of the exercise in anything in life is to get from point A to point B in as efficiently as possible. Point A to point B as efficiently as possible.
I think that sort of thinking is what is going to end up being the downfall of AI.
Yeah, that's a very emotionally vacant thinking.
Okay.
Right.
Professor Bloomfield agreed.
Remove all the... Quinton and I talked about this. Hey, AI, cure cancer. Done. I've just launched every nuke, and we're going to kill every human being on the planet, and that's the easiest way. No humans, no cancer.
Comparing an 18-year-old in essay writing to curing cancer is a stretch. Also, and I'll counter this. Education, this is the concern I would have with education and artificial intelligence. Eventually, there's going to be a Lee Elberson avatar, a Lee Elberson AI. And that Lee Elberson AI is going to be able to
play poker all day long.
Is going to be able to do everything that Lee Elberson can do.
Just poker.
Literally everything Lee Elberson can do without getting tired. Literally everything Lee Elberson can do online, on her phone, on a lens, with goggles, will be able to tap into that Lee Elberson. And then people will be able to go find Lee Elberson on AI and get all the tutoring acumen that Lee Elberson provides clients. I'm sure you've already thought about this. Mm-hmm. This is not novel by any means. The only thing that Lee Elberson AI will not be able to do is perhaps emotional intelligence, at least early. The concern that a tutoring company would have is if Lee Elberson AI exists, why would Lee Elberson, the human, be a priority?
Yeah, I guess it would depend on your value system and how you value genuine human interactions and how much you trust the AI, given the early issues we're already having with AI hallucinations. I think it's just a different value system. As humans, we have a shared value system. Now, those value systems can differ, but most of us in this community agree that we're not going to randomly go and kill each other. Now, in artificial intelligence, it's really difficult to impart a value system on an artificial intelligence you can't give it full autonomy to grow and be creative and also imprint that value system, because programming doesn't know nuance in the same way that I think humans are. So that probably will change over time.
Because we're at the spur of an edge scenario of AI.
Yep.
Right?
Yep.
So we're not even Okay, so I agree with you. Right now, the value system and the emotional intelligence piece is not there. I'll take it a step further. Here's a step further. What would prevent a Lee Elberson from creating a tutoring system where it's done in a Coursera fashion, where Lee Elberson teaches calculus through a digital platform for 10,000 people in the world, and say, all I need is for these 10,000 people to pay me $1 to enter my Coursera about calculus. And then that Lee Elberson digitally made $10,000 for 1 hour. But that $10,000 for 1 hour can potentially cannibalize the real life Lee Elberson charging, I don't know what you charge. I'm just call it $225 an hour. Maybe it's $200 an hour. Maybe it's $185. I don't know what charge.
Say 95 an hour is where our rates start.
Okay, $95 an hour. Okay, $95 an hour one-on-one versus Lee Elberson digitally, 10,000 people all over the world, $1 to enter my class.
I mean, I think it's probably the same thing in real estate. Do you want this AI knows more than Quinton does. This AI has access to all of this information. So do you want to work with a human being, or do you want the AI doing it for you?
So you have children.
I do.
You do.
Yeah. Two.
It frightens me marginally, but there they are.
Yeah.
It's unstoppable. Who would you hire? Would you hire the $1 fake person for your child?
We're currently spending $60 an hour to work with the fabulous Miss Wilkie, who is legitimately working for an hour with our 5-year-old twice a week to prepare him for kindergarten.
There's also
That's literally happening.
And there's some great software and games out for that. Why not choose that?
Khan Academy.
Yeah,
It's free.
We do that.
Yeah.
We also do that.
You do that as well, but why not that alone?
Because we want the in-person, and then we also are supplementing the in-person with the digital. Now, we're different in that we're, resource, and it's crazy to say this going into kindergarten, that he's doing this. But we're doing literally both. We're literally doing both.
Yeah. I think
regardless of the education level, what consistently ranks out as one of the highest measures, let's say the top 3. This is not a ChatGPT question. This is a question to non-synthetic Lee and non-synthetic Jerry. What are the things that are the greatest predictors of an individual's success?
I don't follow that.
Somebody graduates, 10 people graduate college, they have the same degree. Out of those 10, what would you imagine the character traits and items in one of them to be as a predictor of success?
That's a great, I understand.
They all start the same business.
Yeah.
Parents' income and education level of the mothers, the top 2, I would say.
Okay, I would say different. Did that individual play team sports growing up? And what kind of level of street smarts and human connection do they have?
Ask ChatGPT.
And
do the question better than I did.
What kind of level of street smarts, team sports do they play, and do they have the gift of human connection? That's what I would say.
Top 3 predictors.
Because I do think emotional intelligence, your ability to navigate social functions, and understanding.
Is that human connection?
Yeah. I'm just I'm trying to unpack that a little bit.
Do we want to say for a recent college graduate? Or
Sure.
Just for a recent?
I would say the 3 of us have human connection in spades.
Because a lot of the things that I think, a lot of what I'm sitting here doing a lot more listening than talking, thank God. What I'm hearing you guys say is a lot of the things that AI does well leads towards certification and degree and knowledge. But possession of knowledge by itself is not a predictor of success.
That was brilliantly said. I give him props for that. Completely agree with that.
And I think for a lot of that, you're always going to need the human. And so a lot of the stuff that we're really excited about, I think are great tools. And yes, I do believe consumers are going to push it, because currently a lot of ways companies make money live in this sort of arbitrage. And we're finding more efficient ways to do that. Computer, software, AI, and big data is going to be a part of that. But it's never going to be the predictor of success for an individual or an individual transaction or business.
Also agree with that. I also agree with that. He's basically saying succinctly, AI can help you get book smart, but book smart is only going to take you so far.
Yeah.
That's what he basically just said.
I'm curious what the monster in the machine said.
All right. So when I asked what are the top 3 predictors of success for a recent college graduate, it said it can be subjective and dependent, but number 1, field relevant skills and knowledge. Interesting. Number 2, professional network and connections. And number 3, soft skills and personal development.
Okay, human connection.
So that's 3. Emotional intelligence, human connection, I think is probably number 3. 2 is
What was number 2 again?
professional network and connections. So
I think
yeah,
that's street smarts.
Sort of.
That's street smarts.
That's
Who you
I
know.
disagree.
Who you're crafty enough to meet in the street. Can I tell you a story? Here's a story.
Can we stop you?
Okay, absolutely. You can always stop me. You can always stop me. You can always stop me.
What are these plugs over here?
How did I get most of this building? Street smarts of looking at the GIS, found the GIS, and then started taking people out to coffee. That's literally what I did. I said, let me scour the GIS, who's on the back end of their career from an age standpoint and a retirement with their business. I'm going to take them donuts and coffee, and I'm going to be a pest and get FaceTime.
All right, so I actually changed the question and I said, what are just the top 3 predictors of success? Because I think top 3 predictors of success for a college graduate frames it in a certain way that they have had the ability to go to college.
Okay.
So it changed it slightly. It said, number 1, grit and perseverance. Yeah,
Is that street smarts?
That's street smarts. Number
Okay.
2 is directly emotional intelligence. And number 3, growth mindset and continuous learning. It's funny, it never mentions in here your parents' income level. Everything I've ever read said that, like, if you pick random people,
I think
that's the biggest marker of
But
success.
I think that's a marker of other things.
What does that mean?
So a lot of success in life is about access, and a lot of our access is derived by where we're born and who we're born to,
For sure.
in the random genetic lottery. What you do with that access, it's much harder to succeed without a degree than with one, and high degrees are no longer the guarantee of success they were 40 years ago.
Yeah.
And that's because of how markets have been driven and how consumers have driven the markets and the things that they value.
Completely agree with that. I think parents' wealth is being democratized by the internet. And as the internet is making education much more accessible and approachable, parents' wealth is less important.
And although I don't share this vision of the future where AI actually supplants humans in these sorts of interactions, I do hope AI, big data, and access to knowledge increases the breadth of access to some of the folks that didn't have the good fortune to be born in a certain town, in a certain country, to certain parents of a certain ethnic or financial background.
100%. 100%. My buddy says this all the time. I think he's watching right now. Dino, are you watching? Dean says this: you don't know how lucky you were, Jerry, that your parents' sperm and egg connected in Naples, Florida, as opposed to South Africa.
Mm-hmm.
That's what he said. He goes, your sperm and an egg connected in the United States of America as opposed to a war-torn country.
And something about you saying that sentence just gives me the creeps. I don't know what it is exactly.
we could get more.
United States of America into a family with resources. So I think, I mean, I guess that's.
We didn't grow up wealthy.
Well,
but it's also,
relatively speaking,
I was gonna say,
South Africa.
Who's the comparison?
Well, even probably in the United States. I mean, I think everyone in this room probably grew up with above average resources.
And when we talk about generational wealth, that's even a bigger deal.
Yeah.
What's the next ChatGPT? This is great. I love this. This is fantastic. This is absolutely fantastic.
Okay, I actually I think I picked one that ChatGPT was actually wrong on. So this is not real estate. All right, Quinton.
I'm so afraid.
Or actually, we're going to ask Jerry. Jerry, what makes the Blue Ridge Mountains blue?
I know this answer.
What makes the Blue Ridge
I
Mountains
never
blue?
knew this until we went on a hike and the guide told me.
It's actually a specific thing.
Is it?
Yeah.
Is it? I have no idea. I have no idea.
So you know why Quinton will
No
know
idea.
the answer to this?
No idea.
Because he
might
gave
have
me the
learned it
question.
30 years ago. His brother has a photogenic memory, and Quinton probably has pretty close to a photogenic memory. You remember most things you read, right?
If there's a story behind them, yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, there has to be a
I wish
story.
I had that. So anyway, what makes the Blue Ridge Mountains blue?
Well, because it's stupid hot during summer here, and trees, to protect themselves, release a chemical called isoprene. And isoprene, when it mixes in the humidity in the air and refracts, it's blue. The blue fog you see is actually self-created weather by the trees.
Isn't that it's like sunscreen from the trees, isoprene.
I did not know that.
And it's mostly the oak trees, I think, in the Blue Ridge Mountains that do that. So anyway, ChatGPT sort of got it right. ChatGPT said it's due to Rayleigh scattering, which is why the sky is blue, and that's technically why that particular part is blue, but more other mountain ranges don't.
You could
appear
globally
blue.
say refraction
Yeah.
for sky and the Blue Ridge and be correct.
Yeah.
I love it. Give us another one. Give us another. This is fun.
Like this?
Yeah.
All right.
I do like the real estate topic, just because I'm passionate about it.
Okay, so I asked, how many first-time home buyers are there in the U.S. every year as a percentage of normal home buyers?
And I dislike this question because
Okay.
it's changed so much in
Okay,
the
let's
last 12 months. But
Okay, so let's not include the last 12 months because ChatGPT is only valid up until September 2021. You know that.
I would, well, it's roughly 30%, give or take a couple percent.
What do you think it is?
Ooh, ask the question one more time.
As like of all the home buyers every year, let's say aggregated for five years, not including last year, what percentage of those home buyers are first-time home buyers?
Yeah, I don't like this question either, because over the pandemic has significantly diminished the percentage of first-time home
So if
buyers.
I was just to give you a ratio, it's generally speaking been 1 out of 3 for many years.
Okay, it's way less now.
And it's in the last year it was 1 out of 5.
Okay, there you go. So that question is almost an
and
anomaly.
I want to keep it as a fuzzier answer because I'm not 100% certain on the percentage, but it's roughly been 1 out of 5.
And how about and we have 7 minutes for the viewers and listeners here. A follow for him, the benevolent Quinton Beckham. I would imagine that number would probably diminish moving forward. Would you agree? Or get slimmer as things get more expensive? And as
I think
rates-
it's going to pick up again. We still have a very strong job market, and we're going to see interest rates come down next year, and a lot of things that are sticking people where they're at for the rest of this year will not be the same.
Okay.
And I think locally our biggest determinator is what happens with the comprehensive plan, increased density, and the building we do. Because
So
the
you-
only way out of this,
And I don't see the
is to have
political
more-
capital to expand the 5% development area yet.
I don't know.
Because it looks like, I would think that Ann Malik's going to win again. I would think that B. Lepisto's going to win again. They have the value proposition of being the incumbent. Malik is what, a 4 or 5 term? Lepisto currently is a 1 term going into a 2nd term.
You know, yeah. So long as we have inventory, which is now at incredibly low levels, and we're talking even over the last 20 years in terms of existing homes on the market, the inventory is very, 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 very low. And that's going to keep propping up high prices and making affordability really hard. The harder affordability is, affordable housing with a capital A becomes even harder because the gap you have to bridge is so much wider.
Yeah. I like it. I agree 100%.
There's another study that's I find interesting, and I'm curious to see how Charlottesville and the county go through it. If you grab 100 people on the downtown mall today that drive into work, and you poll them, 62 of them will say they're in favor of affordable housing and housing affordability and would let density happen. If you follow them home to where they live, they'll vote against it. If you poll the state, the majority of Virginia is in favor of more affordable housing, even if that means more density. But then when you boil it down to the local level, that's generally where it dies.
Right. Dude's all over it. You want to jump in on this? Lee Elberson?
And
He's
I've got
100%
one more thing. If you look at other states where this has been more intense for longer, this is what has led to states overriding municipalities and taking some of the decision-making about density and zoning out of their hands.
You know how many people, because we talk housing, I'm passionate about this like you, Quinton. You know how many individual neighborhoods, leaders in neighborhoods on associations have reached out to Judah and I, to me, about trying to figure out how to create an HOA for their neighborhood to protect themselves from upzoning? It's got to be nearly a dozen. Nearly a dozen have reached out looking for guidance. And I've said, dude, I'm no expert. If you want some guidance on that, talk to an attorney that specializes in HOA creation. And there's many out there that do that.
Yeah.
But it's to his point that people in a cocktail party could be like housing for all, except when it starts impacting their street and their neighborhood.
And all I would encourage people to remember is this is not a zero-sum game. There's ways for people to have enjoyable neighborhoods and houses they like that meet all these needs. It's not a zero-sum game. There is opportunity. We have the ability to make opportunities for others that cost us nothing.
There you go.
And it's not always easy, and it's certainly not something ChatGPT could come up with. But it's out there, and there's the potential for it.
3 minutes left. Do we have another one?
Quick question. Yeah, rapid fire. How much of a family's income should they spend on a mortgage payment?
30%, no more.
Okay, that's true. That's what ChatGPT says.
But what is it now?
Hold on.
Now it's closer to 50%.
I said should.
Shoulda, coulda, woulda.
Right. Top 3 factors every home buyer should consider.
Top 3 factors every home buyer should consider.
Can you afford the payment?
Income, future potential losses, and their overall debt-to-income ratio.
I think that's a great answer.
ChatGPT said financial readiness, affordability and long-term plans, location and property considerations.
And I would tell you, when I'm talking to people about the first time, I want to know how long they're going to live in the house.
Yeah. And another thing that first-time home buyers should consider is dudettes. This does not have to be your forever home. Get into something, even if it doesn't tickle your fancy.
Or it doesn't have to be your forever mortgage.
Right. Just get into something.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of times a 5-year house, treat it like a lease, like you leased a car.
That's actually not a bad way to look at it.
Or not like Quinton leases cars, because he goes through them every 6 months.
I never lease cars.
The Rivian has been more permanent.
The Rivian's been here almost
It's
a
over
year.
10,000 miles.
Dude, actually, no, the Rivian's not even a year old, but
It'll be a year in September.
I see the Rivian
It's his
driving.
longest relationship.
I see the Rivian driving around town. It's dope, dude.
I love my
It's
car.
got the cool thing that you've put on the bed of the truck.
He's got
And
the
that's how-
rooftop tent. We went camping.
We went camping.
I saw that.
Yeah, it was
I saw that.
super awesome.
I saw that.
So here's, I had
We
a
have
thought.
90 seconds.
Okay, I had a thought as to
This is fun. This is fun.
why I would want to work with an actual realtor as opposed to having it AI driven. What if you have a really bad day and you're upset and you go to your realtor and you're like, let's just buy this? I have a feeling most people under Quinton's stead would stop and say, maybe you should take the weekend to think about this. Like that emotional intelligence, being able to perceive on somebody.
Probably not in this market, but
I was just going to say that.
Well, I got the forms here signed.
Trying to throw you a bone there.
No.
Yeah, the realtor that we worked with, I think would have done that, and I think that being able to understand somebody's emotional state, especially like tutors do this too, right? Is tutoring the best thing for you because you're on the verge of tears right now? Should you be doing something else, right? Sounds like your grandpa just died. You shouldn't be in a tutoring session right now. Yeah. Emotional intelligence.
Emotional intelligence is a big deal, which is why and we've known this for a long time, which is why we talk about the letter of the law versus the spirit. And we want people that engage in the spirit of the law, that engage in the spirit of commerce and conscientious competition and capitalism, as opposed to just the letter of it, because just the letter of it leads to bad things.
There you go. 11:25, boys and girls. Quinton Beckham, Keller Williams Alliance, Yes Realty Partners. Trust an agent with emotional intelligence. Yes Realty Partners, Keller Williams Alliance. Lee Elberson, Clayborne, all-around great guy, embodies emotional intelligence. I love the show when these guys come on. Literally had no idea where it was going to go, and it was one of my
I didn't
favorites.
either, and it was so much fun to watch you two.
So much favorite.
I don't get to do that very
I
often.
love it. Judah Wickower keeps us online. We will see you on the I Love CVille show in 1 hour. Take care. On time.
Thank you.
Damn.
I'm going to be late for my 11:30. I just can't be too late.
Bravo.